the Arizona Cardinals. Another really interesting team at pick 16, middle of the first, dead smack in the middle. The team that felt like they could go in any direction, but defensive line, I think, was the main thing. They were mocked Ja'Day Barron a good bit as well. But they end up going Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss at 16th overall.
Yeah, I mean, love the pick. I think they needed to go D line, and Walter Nolan is a guy for some people was a top 10 kind of talent. And he had some off the field attitude questions that maybe prevented him getting drafted higher. But one of the best defensive linemen in this draft for a team that really needed defensive line help, as you've said. And they have attacked it. They attacked it in free agency. They've also attacked it in the draft with Walter Nolan. So one of the better, I would say, first round players, or first round picks. And I gotta also, and I know we're about to get into it, but I also gotta say, getting Will Johnson in the second round. I mean, one of my favorite picks in the entire draft, man. Will Johnson, also again a guy that some people would consider a top 10 player in this draft as far as talent. And getting that in the second round, I get he has injury question marks and whatnot, but those first two picks, man, those guys could potentially completely change this Cardinals defense.
Yeah, I love the Walter Nolan pick. I actually in our mock had where we did what we would do. I took him at 11 for the 49ers. Um, love him as a pick. Have to just share a little anecdotal thing on him that's just interesting is that he started at IMG Academy down in Florida and actually transferred to Powell. It's like right down the road from us. I did a little internshipy coaching stint there. And he ended up coming, I think, literally like right after I had left there. But he's now noted for being from Powell, Tennessee, which is just interesting. But love the pick. Cardinals put effort into the defensive line. They signed a handful of like, the defense in general, but they signed a couple guys, but needed to invest more. Their defense was not very good last year. They needed to revamp it. And I think Walter Nolan is a great piece for that. He's a good run defender and he's incredibly productive. Can pass rush. He can do it all. Another one of those guys that when he left Texas A&M looked better.
Yeah.
So he goes to Ole Miss for one season and just looks great. And he was the number one overall recruit as well when he came out of high school. So got the pedigree behind him there. But love that pick. And then, you touched on Will Johnson in the second round. Knee injury concerns, whatever. Just love Will Johnson. I mean, watching his tape, watching him, he is just an elite caliber corner who has a tendency to kind of, his ball skills and anticipation are one of his biggest strengths, but it gets him into trouble just a little bit where he tries to jump routes or read things a bit, but he is just so good. And if his knee injury, the concern was basically that he has kind of a lingering, a concern in his knee that could potentially limit how long he can play. A thing that has been found in other guys that went on to have solid careers. So it's nothing that like will definitely prevent him from having a long career. But that was, I think, one of the biggest concerns. Also came off of a different injury with having a foot injury in the season, but was a pivotal piece in Michigan's championship run in 2023.
Yeah, no question about it, man. And again, these are, I mean, Walter Nolan and Will Johnson could completely change this defense. You got two elite players, in my opinion, at two incredibly important positions on the defense. And Will Johnson has the potential to become like a lockdown cornerback, man. That's his upside. He is a potential lockdown corner. And it was just great consensus value. I mean, how many mocks did you see have him drop out of the first round, dude? Not many. And
Yeah.
again, like you said, the injury concerns, it's not as concerning like a guy like Benjamin Morrison who has a hip concern, which is extremely important for corners. Like knee injuries in this day and age just aren't as critical to people's long-term health because it just so many great things with modern medicine and how people recover and things of that nature. So I think Will Johnson will be fine, man. I think they found themselves a really good player in the second round, which is just phenomenal value. They're also pairing Walter Nolan with last year's first round pick and Robinson last year. So this defensive line all of a sudden is just looking better. They also brought back Calais Campbell after all the years. They were the team that originally drafted Calais Campbell, and Calais Campbell still being productive in the NFL. So that's also fascinating. I just like the way they've attacked this defense. It's also notable that Their head coach has coached their team in a way that they've kind of outperformed their talent in a lot of ways. So, which is just fascinating to see. If you give him talent, if you give him a guy like Walter Nolan, and you give him a guy like Will Johnson, will they be able to kind of take another step on defense? Going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of, looking back, a lot of people, even I, with the Jonathan Gannon video when he first
Yep.
started
The
and was like,
introductory press
who
conference.
took the bus here? That thing too with the team, and it was just so awkward. But yeah, I completely agree. I think they definitely played above what their roster was, especially defensively, and that's where his specialty comes in at the defensive coordinator side. Um, and he made that defense better than it was probably one of the worst defenses on paper in the entire NFL. And they outperformed that. So now him getting two guys like this in the building, I think could change things drastically for them. Will Johnson's comp by Lance Zierlein is also a really interesting one. It's J.C. Horn, who just got paid. If he
Yep.
becomes J.C. Horn for them as a second round pick, who J.C. was like 8th overall, that is incredible value for that. So this team's been desperate for kind of a number one corner as well since Patrick Peterson.
Yep.
They've kind of needed a guy like that. So absolutely loved both of these picks, and they could change the defense completely. But they didn't stop there.
Nope.
To your point at the top, they continued. They then go Jordan Birch, edge out of Oregon, adding defensive tackle and then attacking edge again after Darius Robinson last year. Pretty athletic dude, pretty productive in college. Another one of those. Was at a team for 3 years, transferred to Oregon to finish his career, and was really productive with them. And then they also go with Cody Simon, back-to-back Ohio State guys. Cody Simon, linebacker, who I think when I was looking at this, yeah, he's already plugged in to be second string there. And then Denzel Burke, corner out of Ohio State, who was a top recruit that, again, you look at mock drafts, talk about this all the time. 2 years ago, he was probably mocked in like the top 15.
Yeah, man. A few interesting players there, especially Birch. I mean, Birch had 10 sacks in 2024. Really good number, obviously. So, man, it's just they continue to attack the defensive line and the defense in general, dude. I think that defensive unit could be one of the most improved units in the NFL next season. I really believe that with this draft. Obviously, some of these guys have to hit. It's never a guarantee. It's all just a projection, but I think the way they attacked it, the guys they got, when they got them, I think this defense could be a very much improved unit. And just like the X factor, what we just talked about, Jonathan Gannon, a head coach, he's coached bad talent to look better than it has. So if you give him good players, what can he do with this defense?
Yeah, absolutely. And these guys are every single one of these defensive guys are guys who could go in and at minimum fill in depth needs immediately, but potentially compete. And Denzel Burke's a really interesting one because he was a solid recruit. Was also a freshman All-American. He just kind of never put it together from there. So getting him late like they did. Also worth noting, completely forgot, they also got Josh Sweat. That was the other big signing that they made. So completely overhauling the front seven of this team. And then in the 6th round, they add some depth along the offensive line with Hayden Connor, guard from Texas, and then hit defense again with Kitten Crawford out of safety out of Nevada. So with their 7 picks, 6 of them are on the defensive side of the ball. They clearly knew they had an issue there.
Yeah, clear theme. It also tells me that they like where their offense is at, which is interesting. But remember, they got Marvin Harrison in the building last year. Wasn't as good as we thought he would be. And Kyler is just like, he's a solid quarterback. I mean, but they have their franchise guy, even though he's not elite. So I kind of understand why they attacked the defense over the offense, because even just how they performed last year in many games, Kyler and the offense would keep them in it, but the defense would let them down in the last minute of the game or whatever. So I get why they attacked the defense, and it was a clear theme, and I think it'll pay off, man. I really do. So
I agree. I think offensively, I'm a little surprised that they didn't take some positions more. Their offensive line is also still kind of in a rough situation. Definitely could have used more help there. Also surprised they didn't take a wide receiver.
yeah.
They're one of those teams that like people started to say, hey, just because similar to the Panthers, just because you took a wide receiver first round last year doesn't mean you can't this year.
Correct.
So I'm a little surprised there because the receiver core is okay.
Yeah, I
Kyler could have
like.
used some more help there.
Yeah, I agree. I like Michael Wilson. He's actually been a solid player.
Yeah,
But I don't like seeing Zay Jones listed as a starter. I mean, that's the kind of guy that
yeah,
you just want to knock down a depth chart, even though he's been okay. Like he's not been great in the NFL. They're really heavily relying on Marvin Harrison's development, which is a bit of a risk, man, because even though he was a really, really good prospect, was the consensus number one wide receiver in a year where this is one of the most loaded wide receiver classes last season. So, but I just, again, you're heavily reliant on that, and that's kind of putting your eggs all in one basket. And I would have liked to see them take at least a wide receiver in the draft. It is a little bit surprising that they just completely neglected the position. But like maybe they've seen Marvin Harrison in the offseason. They think he's going to take that next step. And they did need to attack defense, and they got
yeah.
really good value on the defensive side of the ball. So I kind of understand it from that perspective.
Yeah, surprised they didn't try to do some more trading down and pick up more picks to then be able to add more pieces to a roster that does need help. But yeah, the defense should be much improved. Offense, maybe kind of the same. Not much change going on there. But yeah, from a UDFA perspective, got to shut out another UFL. They also got Josh Fryer, tackle at Ohio State, the other tackle from Ohio State. I think it's like the entire offensive line getting being gone. But they signed defensive lineman Elijah Simmons, big old dude for the middle of the defensive line. Well, he's short and stocky, is what we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see him making the roster. Again,
Yeah.
a team that still needs defensive line help, but they've attacked it pretty heavily. So who knows if he'll make the team or not, but it is interesting to see.
Favorite pick? I know what yours is, so I'll take
Yeah.
the other one.
Yeah, it's obviously Will Johnson. I mean, it's just I'm shocked that he lasted to that spot, man. My Colts had a chance to take him. I'm pretty devastated they didn't. I thought it's just as soon as he fell to the second round, he was like right up there with probably even ahead of this guy, but right there with Luther Burden as guys where I'm like, okay, and Mike
Wow.
Green even
Yeah.
that I'm like, wow, they're still here. They're some of the best value left in the second round. So got to go Will Johnson. He could become an elite shutdown corner in the second round. Love it.
Yeah, literally didn't see him in dropping out of first round mocks until like the day of and day before the draft when DJ did it. But everybody else, it was like by pick 22, usually he was gone. So him being available there was crazy. I'm going to go Walter Nolan. I'm a big Walter Nolan fan. I would have taken him 11th overall for the 49ers on their D line, and I like the fit here. Let him learn from Calais Campbell, too. Cardinals legend is back in the building, and let Walter Nolan get coached up by him. I love that.
No better guy to learn from, to be honest. Calais Campbell
No.
knows how to do it. Possible Hall of Famer, kind of fringe Hall of Famer, I would say. So great player to learn behind.
Fantastic character guy too.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best just people in the NFL.
That's a good point, man. That could help a guy like Walter Nolan who's had character questions, more so just attitude questions, and no better professional to learn behind than Calais Campbell. So
think
love it.
Walter Payton, Man of the Year guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. What does the consensus say about the Cardinals draft?
They are at 14th overall in the NFL. So just above average draft. I would agree with that, man. I think if other teams didn't have such loaded classes, that the Cardinals would have been one of the best. And I just think they had great consensus value. And for a team that didn't pick a lot, I think it says a lot that they are ranked 14th.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, to be honest. I think it's one of the ones I disagree on a little bit. I probably would have had them higher personally. I'm probably for the fact I'm a Walter Nolan fan and we both love Will Johnson. But again, I think not in this year. That's probably at minimum a top 8 draft class, in my opinion. Yeah. All right. That is the Cardinals 2025 class.